So we are going to talk about permission to be rich. Just go like this if you can see me and the screen. Awesome. Okay. This is so exciting because you will hopefully start to feel, as Tracy Litt said yesterday, if you were in our launch, she said it's like this fake plexiglass that's all around us. And I've said before, it's kind of like soap bubbles. When you go to touch them, they disappear. And hopefully you're going to start to feel how much more abundance and riches are right here in this moment that you can be available to receive, because you're going to give yourself permission. And we're going to talk about why the hell that's there. So we have to totally elevate our relationship with wealth, right? We won't get more of a relationship with something we have a bad relationship with. We will need to repair in order to no longer be resistant. We have to have the capacity to receive it. So we're going to talk about abundance, material abundance, spiritual abundance. We're going to talk about how to grant yourself full, unyielding permission to allow that into your life, and how to walk into prosperity unapologetically and authentically. And a lot of this is actually really a gift to the whole world. So let me just click this. Okay. So we either live in probability or possibility. And we do a much better job enjoying our life when we live in possibility. Probability is the past, right? Probability is the way the mind likes to work, right? The mind likes to work off of probability, although.
Hey, Kath, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We can't see your full screen. Can you do presenter view so we can
Yeah,
see the full thing? Thank
because
you.
it is so pretty. Hang on a second. You really want the full screen, because I was freaking out telling them how beautiful of a job they did. Hang on. Wait. How many of you have that song now stuck in your head? I need to go into Canva. Wait, what am I supposed to do? Here, let me do it this way. Tripping over those Grammys, but okay, so if I go like this, I'd have been like this, I've been like this. Let me tell me if that's better.
Yes, we can see now.
It's so pretty, you guys. I'm so impressed that my team just makes such beautiful things. Probability is the past. Probability is your mind looking at the evidence of everything you've manifested up till now and telling you that that's what's most probable. But everything you've manifested up till now has to do with the way you think and felt up until now, because everything in your life is the 3D printout of the past. Since the speed of light is where everything shows up in the 3D, we manifest beyond the speed of light. The speed of light is actually slower than where we manifest. So everything that you see materialized is from the past. It is the printout. It's sort of like the way we talked about it in this launch. But if DNA is a code, DNA is energy, that actually is a software. It is a code that creates the 3D, which is you, right? It comes from DNA is very real, but it doesn't take up a lot of mass, but it is a code. It is energy in a coil, right? That tells your body what to 3D print, okay? You have created that code in the way that you have thought and felt, because it is the coherence or lack thereof of your energy that then becomes the three-dimensional manifestation of your life. So what is probable is where your brain looks at the past, what you have manifested from the past, from the ways that you've thought and felt, from how much energy you were available to project into the field, and says, well, here's what's most probable. Possibility is where you go into the quantum, where you go into your soul, your source, your life force, where you become a vehicle to receive all the energy possible. You become a light bulb that now not only has 40 watts, it has 1,000 watts, it has an infinite amount of watts. It can hold so much more. That is what's always possible. What's always possible is to hold the reception the full reception. We talk about what it means to be in the right place at the right time. And I've posted this on Instagram before, which is being in the right place at the right time is just knowing that you already are. It is about being here in the right place and time. The now, the present moment, is beyond time. The present is beyond time. We've talked about that, right? The present is quantum time. Most people are not in the present because they're constantly projecting the past experiences they've had, the cognitive bias, the chemicals that they're addicted to, the feelings and thoughts that they have memorized from the past. They are imprinting, projecting that lens onto the present moment, which means they are just reliving the past. When we are in the present moment, that is where all possibility opens up. That is the portal to everything that we can receive. So being in the present moment is the doorway to all the abundance. We have to set down the past. So we've talked about this before, but let's just put it all together in one coherent slideshow. It's helpful. So the word Kabbalah comes from the word lekabel. It means to receive. Our job on this planet is to be in radical reception. Esther Hicks talks about the receptive mode, the exact same thing. Our job is to be a vessel to receive. When we come from our small self with a capital S, the ego only has a small capacity to receive. When we step into being soul-centered, right, our self with a capital S, we can receive an infinite amount because we receive on behalf of the collective. We are someone because we are some of the one. So a receiver, let's just review. If I have a radio, in order to hear the music that's in this room right now that I cannot hear, I need to turn on the music. I need to turn on the radio because the radio, when it's turned on, has the capacity to hear that frequency. And the music was already always here, hidden in plain sight, but I can hear it. I can get that broadcast when I tune to that frequency and I have the capacity to receive that frequency. Now, once I have it turned on, I actually can choose which song I hear. I can change the music, but all of that depends on where I'm tuned. So when we are in these elevated states of consciousness, when we feel wholeness, when we feel compassion, when we feel love, when we feel that we are feeling abundance, which means we're only hearing and seeing and perceiving abundance, and we are only a receptor for that. When we are feeling shame and doubt and lack, that means the radio's not on, we can't hear the music, and everything that's already here, hidden in plain sight, stays hidden. So in order to receive, we have to turn on, tap in, and then we have to be here manipulating our own frequency so that it receives greater, so that it receives a higher, less static, more music. And that is how all these amazing things just start showing up in your life because you have the capacity to receive them. So now we did this during the launch. We've probably done this before if you've worked with me before, but I want you to take out a pen and paper because I think that this exercise is something you can do over and over and over again because the things that we need to hear over and over and over again. And we need to keep tweaking and keep looking at these things so that we can overcome whatever's in the way. So I want you to write down the first sentence. I want to be healthy AF. I just want you to start with that. How does that feel to declare that with full, total, all in energy? I want to be healthy as fuck. How does that feel to say that? And what starts to come up when you think about being healthy like that? What starts to come through? Is that something that you feel like you would share with your best friend? I'm in this season. I want to be so healthy. Would you put that on social media? I want to be healthy. AF. Let's go. Who's with me? I'm reading your comments. Yeah. Now write down the next sentence. I want to be wealthy AF. How does that feel? Does it feel the same or does it feel different? Do you feel awesome? Do you love saying that out loud? Does it feel energizing? Does it feel like ease and goodness and sweetness and brightness? Would you post that on social media? I want to be wealthy AF. Does that feel so inspiring to other people? Now let's look here. It says, it's not something that I feel comfortable posting. Feels good, but private. Feels like a secret. Feels artificial. Let's just be really honest. The music sort of turns off when we say that, doesn't it? Let's just get honest, because we can't really cure something that we don't really identify. We'll just keep being in the unconscious of it. I want to be wealthy AF. Wow, there's a lot in that. There's a lot in that, because there's a lot of ways that those words and those declarations make people feel shame, make people feel sleazy, make people feel terrible. It's been part of culture. It's been part of what is in storylines. It's been part of what has been made to be a villain. So what is that about? Why would you not tell somebody that you want to be wealthy AF? Because what? People will judge you. Why else? Why wouldn't you declare that? Limiting beliefs. I tell my friends, but not online. People would laugh at me. What does AF mean? Oh, like as fuck. Like I want to be wealthy as fuck. I want to be healthy as fuck. This is like a big way to declare it. It feels very vulnerable. So this whole thing, right? Debbie just said people will think you're selfish. Yeah. So if somebody has an abundant mindset, if somebody lives from a place of abundance, would they shame you? Would they be excited for you? If somebody had a scarcity mindset, if somebody is in resistance, if somebody comes from a lot of lack and doubt and shame, they might be the ones who would not be supportive, because very triggering. So the reason we called this workshop Permission to be Rich is because we operate mostly from our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind has everything to do with our nervous system. It physically feels terrifying to do something that our subconscious mind tells us is not safe. It physically feels terrifying. It's not just in our head, it's in our body. So when we don't feel safe in our subconscious mind, that means our nervous system gets activated and we will not give ourselves permission to have it, because it literally feels like we are physically putting ourselves in danger. So we can talk a lot about how we want more abundance in our life, but when the notion of having lots of abundance and declaring it and being seen for it and being known for it and being in our families with it and being in the world with it and being a billboard for it, if any of that shows up and registers in our subconscious or in our nervous system, if it registers as not safe, it ain't happening. We manifest at the speed of safety. So we need to unpack and we need to prune away those neural pathways and create new pathways so that the right and the left hemispheres of the brain start talking to each other and give us permission to allow ourselves to receive, so that we no longer activate a literally full body visceral feeling that we are going to die if we go down that road. That is how extreme the mind talks to the nervous system, which will keep you in the exact same pattern. So type a 1 in the chat if you'd like to set that down so that you can just allow yourself to be wealthy, allow yourself to thrive, allow yourself the permission to be fully wealthy to the greatest extent. So we have to unwind how much attention, how much we co-sign that is actually dangerous. And instead, we need to put together why that is actually the most humble thing we can do in this life, is to radically receive all the abundance that exists, period, end of story, in every way. All the love, all the money, all the opportunities, all the creativity, all the flow state possible, all of it. So let's keep going. So first, let's just kind of unpack this a little bit. You've heard me say this before, but let's review it. So the Talmud talks about money like rain falling in a garden. It is an activator. It's neutral, but it activates. So for instance, a lot of people think you can either be a good person or you have money. So people want to be good. So they tell themselves, this is how much money I'll give myself permission to receive so I can be good, so I can have integrity. But it has nothing to do with the money. If money is like rain, like an activator, if there's a garden and money is an activator, then if rain falls on weeds, weeds grow. If rain falls on roses, what happens to the roses? The roses grow. If money is something that comes into the hands of someone who's like weeds, meaning they're out of integrity, they will be more of that. They'll do more of that with more resources that they have. If money comes into the hands of somebody who has integrity, who has alignment, like roses, and that person who has integrity has more of that resource, they will be more good. They will do more good with more of what they have. If somebody has any blessing that shows up in their life and they are in integrity, they will do more good with it. A person who has the blessing of children, who is a kind person with integrity, will do beautiful things with the blessing that they have of having children. If somebody is out of integrity, if somebody has children, they might not be the most amazing at stewarding those children. If somebody's given Wi-Fi and they have integrity, they might do beautiful things with it. Start a great podcast, post a GoFundMe, share beautiful content, inspire other people, text their friends. If somebody with no integrity is given the resource of unlimited Wi-Fi, they could do nasty things with it. Speak slander about somebody, post negative, hateful things. You get the point. If you needed to make a list of people in this world who are disgusting people, who have a lot of money, you could fill up a list. If you needed to make a list of people in this world who are incredibly generous and kind, who have lots of money, you could fill up a list. If you needed to make a list of people who are very, very kind, who have no money, you can find that too. And if you needed to make a list of people who are horrible people who have no money, you can make a list of those people. It's not the money. Money becomes an activator. Type a 1 in the chat if you're getting that. We are here to be a conductor of all that we allow in. So our job is to be a good steward of every incredible resource that we have. Because you'll see as we go through this class, to be someone is to be some of the one. This is one collective. It's one ocean. We are each separate waves that are not separate at all. All one wave that connects to the other, that connects to one ocean. It's a field of energy. It's oneness. So when you feel like being loving, when you feel like being generous, how does it feel? It feels amazing, right? It feels amazing to like go out of your way to be extra nice to the person at Starbucks. It feels good to give somebody a better tip. It feels amazing to realize that you have 2 bouquets on Mother's Day and you just give an extra one to somebody who you pass by on the street. It feels amazing. Sometimes people say to themselves, well, if I had more, then I would be generous with it. What about with what we have right now? Because the best feeling of abundance comes from what we give away. So we're actually holding ourselves back from feeling abundant by not giving what we can give in this moment. That's actually what activates the feeling of abundance. Try it. Next time you go to Starbucks, buy a Starbucks for the person behind you. You will feel so abundant. It's the most amazing feeling. It feels better than someone buying it for you. It's an amazing feeling of abundance. What is something you can do to be generous today? What about the next time you have 5 minutes, whether you're waiting at car line to pick up your kids or whether you are waiting for, who knows, something. You make a note and you say, whenever I'm waiting next, I'm going to use that time and just text somebody who I know and love and just text them something nice like, how's your heart? What's going on for you today? Just want you to know that I care about you. It'll feel so freaking good to just give love away. Feels amazing. So we were talking about a second ago how we are someone because we are some of the one. So if you look at the world, right, and you look at sort of the history of ideas, one of the biggest mic drops, like we know, obviously, Einstein, E equals MC squared, that was a giant mic drop, right? The science world is still reeling from him and from his perspective. And there's been many things like that that have moved humanity forward. So the reason why we're even talking right now, okay, about oneness is because there was a guy, his name was Abraham, and he had this idea that nobody had yet had, which is that God was oneness, which is that up to that point, people believed that God was like a physical thing. They had the God of the sun, the God of this, the God of that. There were many gods. And he had this idea that there was just this oneness, this energy that was creating everything, that was in everything. And it was this oneness. It was oneness. And it changed the world. It changed the way people perceived. And we started to see things as no longer separate from each other, but all part of one. And later, way later, Einstein said that the world is made of this one unified field. And it's an infinite field. It can neither be created nor destroyed. And it's literally, you can't split it, right? You can't, it's just like connected. And so the world really works more like the picture of water would be more similar to how reality actually is, literally. So for instance, if you have a stone, a pebble, and you drop it into water, you see ripples, small ripples. If you throw a rock into the water, you see bigger ripples. So each of us literally, not figuratively, literally has an energetic imprint in this energy field, and we can actually now measure it. And when a person has a really wide open heart and they're pumping tons of energy through them, we actually can take a photo of it. Our energy expands 9 meters. So then think about a rock going into the water that just extends for 9 meters. And imagine if that energy kept going, if you kept throwing that rock over and over and over and over again, you would eventually make some really big waves because you would be imprinting into this field. We walk around thinking that we're separate, except that we feel each other's energy because we're all connected through each other's energy, right? We are not our physical form. We are really the energy moving through this physical form, which is why when somebody dies, they try to take these paddles to restart the current, which is the person, right? When the person loses that life force, that energetic flow, we say the person's no longer with us, even though their body is still there, but there's something bigger than that. That's the energy. And everything is made of vibration. And so when we have an energy moving through the body, we are operating at a wave pattern that affects the field, because things that are like matter, like physical, have very dense energy. This is still made of atoms, but it's very slow, right? Whereas my cat is alive, so the energy is very fast because it makes a different imprint in the field. It's not dense, it's alive. And so we don't understand this as much as we really should, because studying science is really helpful, but everything is atomic. And an atom is 99% vibration and less than 1% particle. And so we are all moving in an atomic world. So 99.9% of this entire world is a frequency. It's a vibration, which is why the more we are aware of and cultivating this vibration of wholeness, the more we can move the field and the more we can turn thoughts into things, because everything is made of vibration. Everything is made of energy. 99% of it is. So it's the energy that actually help us to create, to receive. So we have to cultivate and alchemize and amplify our own energy in order to move through, in order to receive, in order to broadcast, in order to be manifesting, right? So one way to think of it, just as like a way to look at it, is to sort of think like, if the divine, if God was like the sun, we're each a ray of that light, because it's all connected. So what does this have to do with money? Well, the ego is very pervasive, and the ego tells you that you're not a soul and you're not connected to everybody. It's all about you. It's all about your survival. And so when the ego gets involved, it thinks about itself. It's self-centered. That's why we call people who have big egos egocentric. They think about themselves as separate from the whole. That's impossible. And that's where we lose all of our power. That's why people with big egos are not very impressive at all. People who are very loving are very powerful because they connect everyone in the room. They're feeling how much bigger they are than just themselves. They're feeling that they're a part of the whole self. That's power. That's real power. That's when you don't have to keep pushing. You don't have to keep hustling, because you are an extension and you are connected to everything. So instead of thinking, if I have more money, people will judge me because I'm taking something from someone else and being greedy, think about this. Think about going into a concert and each person walks in as a separate being. They go get a snack, they sit down, and then there's this moment where everybody takes out their lighter and you look around the stadium and you just feel the oneness of everything. And it's the best feeling. We've all had that feeling in a concert where you look around and you're like, you just feel so light and so whole and so abundant, right? It's the best feeling, because in those moments you feel how there's this giant connection. And you all of a sudden you love the person to your left and to your right. You haven't even talked to them yet. It doesn't matter, because you just feel that you're intrinsically connected through love. And the love that moves through you wraps up and envelops everybody in that auditorium. And that auditorium is just one coherent collective. And all we want all the time is to feel that connection to the oneness. We didn't really come to the world for piles of money and things and cars. What we really want is much bigger than that. We want to feel connected to the oneness of the universe, of the stars, of God, of the divine, of the whole. We want to feel just totally whole and connected. And that wholeness and connection is literally in us. We feel that when we connect to our soul. That is where all of our abundance already is. It's there every second. And so each of us has a full amount of abundance. each of us feels inside of our true self. There's a feeling of equanimity. There's a feeling of you could just love endlessly. You could give compassion endlessly. You can find equanimity endlessly. There is an endless amount of riches, of energy. You can keep pulling more energy from your source, right? Because you're connected to the source. You're connected, you're plugged in. Right now, something is beating your heart. It's giving you life force. That same energy, right? We're all plugged into that Wi-Fi, so to speak. And so just like a candle can light an unlimited amount of other candles without losing its own flame, each of us can ignite, can give away love and tap in and turn on and be generous. And we don't diminish anything of ourselves. And that's the beauty of abundance. Abundance is like candlelight. The more of it, the more of it. When you have it, you wind up giving more of it. When you have it, you're not taking it from other people. You're creating more of it. And you can just keep giving, and you don't diminish yourself by giving it. It just keeps expanding. It expands and expands and expands and expands and expands and expands. That's what abundance is. It's like candlelight. It can just keep shining fully, keep giving fully, shining fully, giving fully. There's no end to it. When I had my first daughter, I remember thinking, how am I going to love my second daughter? Then she was born. I loved her 100%, loved the first one 100%, had a third one 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. It's like, how does it do that? That's abundance. That's love. There is no end to it. Full, 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 and more full. So we've talked about how money comes from the word currency, and currency comes from the word current, because money is like blood in the body. It's got to keep moving. And so why would you give yourself permission to be rich? Oh, because you want to be part of the current. You don't want to stop the flow. Because you're not an ego, because you wouldn't be self-centered, you'd be soul-centered, because you wouldn't be egocentric, because you want to be abundant, because you want to be a part of this whole collective. Why would you put a cap on what you would be available to receive? That would just make you more of a separate ego that's really obsessed with itself. But if you want to be part of the whole, then you would just keep expanding your capacity to humble yourself, open your soul so that you can receive in a maximum amount and keep flowing it through you, keep flowing it through you. You become the constant current. Just keep that wave just keeps giving to other waves. That's what abundant people do. That's what abundance is. Type a 1 in the chat if you're starting to get that different now. When we are self-centered, when we are thinking about ourself, that little self, that ego self, that's unworthy, kind of worthy, not so worthy. Who am I to do this? Who's everybody else? What do people think of it? That's all codependency. That's all self-obsession. That's all negativity. That's all self-doubt. That's all the small self. We're going to have a lot of shame around receiving because we're receiving on behalf of the small self. But that's not our job. Our job is to receive on behalf of the collective. That the more you feel good, the more you give good away. The more money comes in, the more you're able to give it. The more you're able to thrive, the more you help other people thrive. The more you're enjoying your life, the more you're a walking possibility for other people that they can keep opening their arms. They can keep thriving, because if you have a garden and one little tree starts to die, eventually, if you don't treat it, it's going to affect the whole garden. But if you have a garden and these trees start blooming, then it is on behalf of the entire garden that those trees will start to give life to the garden. Let's start to bring that garden back to life. And the bees start pollinating and everything starts coming and it all starts to be cooperative. Egos are not cooperative. They're in it for themselves. Souls are cooperative because they're in it for the whole. So when you perceive that other people would judge you, it's only the hologram of the part of you that's still a little bit holding on to the separate ego self. Because we only perceive that which we have within us. When you start to operate from the soul consciousness, then all you want to do is thrive because you know better. You know that the more bees and the more honey and the more this flower grows, you're printing lots of flowers. This flower creates thousands of gardens. And why would you not want that to happen? Because we're not here for ourselves. In fact, the reason we're here, the only reason we're here is because we're needed, or else we wouldn't be here. Each of us was put here to continue to create more reception, more repair, more wholeness. We're not here for ourselves. We're here for ourselves with a capital S. The things that feel the best are the places where we ourselves are somehow offering life, offering goodness, offering abundance, offering love to what is producing more joy, more light, more love. That's deep down. That's why everybody wants to make an effect, leave an imprint, leave the world better than they found it, because your soul knows that. Your soul knows that that's what feels the best, is enjoying and receiving as much as you possibly can so that you create more reception, more wholeness, more cohesion, more collaboration. That's the most fun. If you had a person who had all the money in the world, all the stuff in the world, and they were alone all the time, they won't be happy, because souls don't want to be alone. All we want to do is connect. Why do people want to fall in love so bad? Because souls want to be in connection. When somebody experiences something that they love, they go to a great ice cream shop, they tell 5 people, you have to go. They want to share the experience. When you see a movie you love, you tell the next 10 people you love, you have to go see it. It's intrinsic. Souls want to share and connect constantly. Everything in the world is actually moving into cooperation and connection and wholeness. So why would we not give ourselves permission to be rich? Oh, because in that moment, we're thinking about ourselves as an ego. We have shame. We think of ourselves as separate. We think of ourselves as unworthy. That's all the small self. Souls don't know how to be unworthy. They're here to be loving. They're here to share. They're here to connect. They're here to flow. They're here to bring people more joy, more goodness. So let's have a fun little exercise, which we've done before. I want you to write this on your piece of paper and write yourself a check. So you're going to write your name, pay to the order of, put your name in there, put the amount of money in numbers, numerical form, and then write it out, date it, and sign it. And if you feel like putting something in the memo, you can put just because. And then I want you to share in the chat what you put there. Take your time. All right, I see them coming in. 4 million, infinite, 5 million, 150 million, 1.5 million, 10 million. Shanice, I love yours. Infinity sign. So why did you write that number? There's no wrong answers. There's no judgment. Why did you write the number? Why a million? Why 33 million? Why not 500 zillion? Why a million? Why not 5 million? Why 300,000? Why not 900,000? Why? Feels like enough. Feels like enough for whom? Right? For your soul? For yourself? For the world? Like, it's just interesting to just start to notice, where does the evaluation come in? Right? Feels like enough for now. Enough to buy presents for everyone I know. It changes between the day and what my worth feels like. So how much of it do you need to feel abundant? Yeah, you don't need any of it, right? The abundance you're looking for is in the wholeness that is always within reach. The part of you that has this capacity to feel connected to the whole, to know that you're someone because you're some of the one. Living in that feeling is the best feeling there is. And if there's flowers in the garden, and in order for them to bloom and to keep blooming, they need a maximum amount of water, then it would be ridiculous for them to have an opinion about it. It's not up to them. They need to thrive. They're doing their job. If you're in an orchestra and you're the cello and you take up a lot of space, it's not about you. Be a cello. You were made to be a cello. Play. Don't play a small note. You're a cello. Play a big note. It's not about you. You were given a gift to play these big notes. Play them. We have the capacity to receive tons of creativity, tons of abundance, to thrive. There is enough. There is more than enough for all of us to be thriving, all those flowers to be getting the water. And from there, we really do our jobs, right? Can you imagine if each person set down all their ego, all the shame, all the scarcity, all the ways that they don't have a capacity to receive, and we could just all thrive? Imagine once all the things in the orchestra are thriving, what kind of music we would make. So our job is not to evaluate it, not to judge it, not to qualify it. It's just to say, God, I'm here. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? Put me in. Let me receive. I am here to be a steward of all the beautiful blessing that comes in. I receive it. Thank you. 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 And as it comes in, you overflow and you are thriving and you are a magnet for all this beauty. And it feels right and good because you got out of the way. And you start doing all the things that you feel inclined to do as a steward, including being a rose that's thriving, not denying yourself water. Thrive. Eat the best food. Stay in the best places. See the best sites. Invest in your education. Take yourself everywhere. Do all of that and continue to watch how you have the capacity to thrive and be generous more. Thrive and be generous. Thrive to the max. Thrive, 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 thrive. Why would you not allow yourself to thrive? Because the more you thrive, the more you become a walking billboard and a testimony that everybody else can also thrive too. It's their destiny. It's their job. They get to do it. And then they're thriving. And now they're in abundance. And now they're operating on all cylinders. They're not denying themselves energy because they don't have enough green juice and organic food. Just enjoy it all and keep stewarding it into the wholeness. So we talked about, you've heard me tell this story that we have to have, literally, we manifest at the speed of safety. The ego does not want to die. The ego wants to be in control because it thinks it's protecting you. So your body has a set point with how safe it feels receiving. And there is a point where you start to feel vulnerable and the ego goes, this doesn't feel safe. This feels unfamiliar. Let me come back in and turn off the receptive mode. So for instance, you go out to dinner with someone, they offer to pay the bill, and you're like, I don't feel safe. I'm feeling vulnerable. I feel uncomfortable. This doesn't feel like something I can receive. So I'm just going to say, no, 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 please don't pay for dinner. Please don't pay for dinner. I physically don't feel safe. Or let's say you're starting a business and you go to launch it and the sales trickle in And then you think about more people buying from your business and you think to yourself, I don't know, the more people who would buy from me feels heavy because I feel responsible. I feel like when they give me their money, all of a sudden I'm so responsible. I'm overly responsible. Now I'm codependent. That codependency doesn't feel safe. Forget it. I don't want money because money feels like it's earned. Money feels like a sacrifice. Forget it. I don't physically feel safe to receive it. When money is something that is sticky, we have to work with our capacity to teach ourselves that we are totally safe, because souls are always safe. Your soul, your consciousness is always safe. No matter what somebody says about you on Instagram, you're fine. Whether you have money or not, you're fine, because you're always okay. We have to literally reteach ourselves that it is safe to receive, so we can build a bigger light bulb to hold more wattage. So I tell this story that years ago, I learned this lesson because it was COVID and I wanted my kids to have a big holiday. So I hired these guys to put up Christmas lights, and my husband kept saying, it's not going to work. And I thought he was being a Debbie Downer. It was really annoying me. Why does he keep saying that? And I had these guys string these lights all around the house. Sure enough, they finish. It looks like it's going to be so cool. We go to turn it on. It's on for like 6 seconds, and then everything goes out. I walk in the house. He's like, the fridge just turned off. The computer just turned off. Like, what's happening? So I go and we start it again, turns on for 6 seconds, goes off. And eventually he comes outside and he says, do you see the breaker? We go to the garage and we open the breaker. He goes, we just physically don't have enough to hold that much wattage. The house wasn't built with that much capacity to receive that many watts. So you'll have to decide between the fridge and your Christmas lights, because we can only hold so much. And I'm literally laughing and crying because I had spent $2,700 on the lights. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, that's why I said it won't work, because it's December 23rd. You'd have to get an electrician. They'd have to add more to the breaker to hold the light. So when we're in our life and we're walking around in our unconscious and we're walking around with a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of radio signal, and we're trying to receive, that is the same thing as having a breaker that only has a certain amount of wattage that it is able to receive. Type a 1 in the chat if you get that. So we have to change it inside so that we have the capacity to hold more energy. If anybody's ever done Kundalini yoga or you've come out of a meditation, you can feel there is a place in you where you can access more energy, right? When they study athletes, they find that they move into flow state. That flow state allows them to just move on the court. They are allowing more energy to move through them. They're increasing their capacity for energy receptivity. When we are in doubt and fear and shame, which is all ego consciousness, we are pumping cortisol from our mind into our cells, which actually reduces our capacity for energy. It actually makes us tired. Type of 1 if you get that. So cortisol lowers our energy. Serotonin opens up the energy. Dopamine opens up the energy. Those things come from here. You literally have, from your thoughts, the pharmaceutical ability to drip serotonin into your cells based on what you're thinking, based on what you're focusing on, based on what you're perceiving. The more you perceive in the flow, in the reception, the more serotonin is going to drip into you, which is going to allow for more energy, which is allowing you to receive more, which is why meditation and the practice of that, or anything that gets you into a greater state, will allow you to receive. So, how much love do you have the capacity to give? Is there an end? No. I always say, I wish I could adopt the whole world, like every adult, because I'm certain that I have enough love that I could sit and look in the eyes of every person and just let them feel what it feels like to be loved for no reason. It's endless. And love is not something anyone needs to earn. Love by definition is not earnable. It's grace. It's just a gift. So the question is, how much love can we give? It should be equal to how much love we can receive. When we come from our egos, it's really hard to receive love. Forget money. Just start with love. Just someone being kind to us. We don't feel worthy up into a certain point. Someone being loving, someone giving us a compliment, a gift, an experience. Our egos start to feel uncomfortable because the ego has a certain capacity to receive based upon what makes it feel safe or not. Because receiving is vulnerability. It's not being in control. The ego wants to be in control. So I think this is like such a beautiful way of looking at it. But when we plug in, just like we plug in our phones, we plug into the divine, when we do that in meditation, when we do that with our breath, when we do that with dropping into that part of us that is whole, we remember we are safe to receive. It is our birthright. We are safe to be abundant. We were meant to be abundant. Not receiving is like buying a Tesla and not driving it, just leaving it in the garage. It was meant to receive. It was meant to be fully charged. When we manifest, we don't get what we want, we get what we are. When the radio turns to a certain signal, it receives the matching vibration to that frequency. That's actually literally how radios work. We have to be plugged in and we have to be a match. So the more we're coming from wholeness, the more it just keeps being drawn to us, more wholeness. We didn't come to the world for a pile of things. What we want is to swim in the vibration of wholeness, of possibility, of love, of connection, to set the cortisol down, to set the ego down. We can access that wholeness, that feeling every single day, which will literally become the magnet of what brings the three-dimensional version of that into our life. People who are loving are constantly attracting more love into their life. People who are abundant are constantly attracting abundance into their life. When you walk around with the abundance that is the energy that is you, when you tune in and tap in and turn it on, the amount of opportunities that come are nonstop because everyone will say, God, you have great energy. Oh my gosh, you will be constantly led to more of it. So our job in the world is to be a bigger vessel, to be a bigger steward of the resources of love and compassion and creativity and energy, because to be someone is to be some of the one. So I want you to write yourself a permission slip right now. Dear, put your name. I give you permission to be rich. I give you permission to have the ultimate amount. And then add any of the lines that you want to add that maybe come from what you're thinking right now, what we've talked about today. Why on earth would you give yourself permission to have and to receive at the ultimate level? Why would that be good for you and good for the world? Once you do it, if you feel like typing, dear, your name, and then I give you permission to be rich, let me see you put it in the chat. And how does it feel now? Does it feel any different when you type that than it did when you wrote it down at the beginning? I love these. Dear Siri, I give you permission to be rich. Dear Rachel, I give you unapologetic to be rich AF. Dear Chris, I give you permission to be rich. I give you permission to open up to receive as much as you can. You are worthy. Remember that. How does it feel to write it now? And how does it feel reading this, that people are saying it? Does it feel like something they should be ashamed of? Or can you just feel there is something actually so one, so connected, so abundant, so beautiful about what this actually is declaring? What is being declared is oneness, is infiniteness, is godliness, is soulfulness. We are setting down the ego. We are setting down shame.